Hello, my name is Bunny Cakes and welcome back to my channel. This is the first video I've made in a while, and I figured now was as good a time as any with everybody trapped at home due to, well, you know that thing we can't mention on YouTube anymore. So what I want to talk about today is the books that I read in March. So let me get my phone here and look at my Goodreads, and we'll talk about the books that I read in March. So I've been in kind of a reading slump, so I didn't read anything in February whatsoever, and I also kind of cheated in March because I read a lot of short books, but I feel like it helped me get back into reading again. So the first book I read was You Are a Badass, How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life by Jen Sincero. This was actually an audiobook. I listened to it, I started listening to it when I was at the gym. Before everything started happening, I was like, I'm going to get healthy, so let's join a gym, and I said, alright, well, reading an audiobook, or listening to an audiobook at the gym is a good way to do that. So, I actually also started reading this book because it was the book of the month for Peter Mons Peterism's channel. It was a really good book. It's a self-improvement book, and it's really good for helping to build your confidence and all of that. I really liked it. I rated it 5 stars on Goodreads. The next book I read was A Good Marriage by Stephen King. This was another audiobook, and I loved it. It was a short read. It's a short story from one of his compilations, but it's also sold separately as a short story book type of thing. It's about a woman who discovers that her husband is a serial killer, and it's almost entirely done over the course of like one night and one morning, but then there's a time skip and everything, and it's a really good read. I loved it. I gave that one 5 out of 5 stars as well. And then I read another short story called The Gingerbread Girl, also by Stephen King. This one was about a woman who runs across a serial killer. I've been reading a lot of true crime, and the true crime with the serial killers and everything is bleeding over into my fiction reading, clearly. Then the next book I read was The Road Virus Heads North. It's another short story by Stephen King. It's about this man who finds a painting at a yard sale that he really, really likes, and it's a dark, gritty looking painting, and he's kind of into that aesthetic. And it was painted by a heavy metal musician right before he killed himself. And it's really kind of hard to talk about it without spoiling the whole story, but it's another epic read. Not about serial killers this time, but it's Stephen King, so there's death. That one I gave 4 out of 5 stars, and I think it was because while it was intended to feel rushed, it felt more rushed than what I thought was intended, and I wished it would have been longer. The next book I read in March was You Are Special by Fred Rogers. It's an audiobook that was narrated by Mr. Fred Rogers. And that is Mr. Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Oh my god, this one was amazing. It's a self-improvement book too, and I learned a thing while reading this book. I listened to this while I was shopping at the grocery store, and I tend to be a person who gets road rage in Walmart. And I learned that it's a little bit impossible to get road rage in Walmart while you're listening to Mr. Rogers, because he would be disappointed. But the book was really good too. There was a good message to it, a lot of self-confidence and that sort of thing, and just everything you expect from Mr. Rogers is in this book. Including one of my favorite quotes that has been spinning around in my head with everything that's going on lately, and that is when he was younger, he lived through a lot of bad things that happened given his age, and he said that when he was younger, his mother told him when bad things happen, look for the helpers. There's always somebody helping. Doctors, nurses, paramedics, police officers, the clerks at your grocery store, your pharmacist. Those people are helping to get us through these bad things. And I think focusing on that rather than the bad is what's going to get us through some of this. I mean, that and staying at home and washing your hands. Now, the next book I read is The 7 Spiritual Laws of Superhero by Deepak Chopra. This one was another self-improvement book. I've kind of been on a kick with that, on top of the Stephen King kick. This one was really good. It's a lot like his other book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of... He's got a lot of them. But this one focuses on superheroes and how they're both godlike and human-like, and how we can use the traits we give our superheroes to make ourselves better and more confident and more powerful, and transform yourself into the person that you can be and the person that you want to be. And that one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. And then the book I read after that was another, technically a Stephen King book. It was Gwendy's Magic Feather by Richard Chizmar. Now, this is a sequel to Stephen King's Gwendy's Magic Button Box, which they kind of wrote together, and Stephen allowed Richard Chizmar to write the sequel to this one because they worked together on the first one, and Stephen didn't know where to go with it, but Richard did. I feel like it totally completes the story, and it has some themes in it that are very modern and appropriate for the time that we're in. There is some government stuff, there's a serial killer, of course there's some magic and all sorts of stuff like that, and there's stuff I want to say about it, but it's spoilers and I'm trying to avoid that. I gave that one 4 out of 5 stars. I gave the Mr. Rogers book 5 out of 5 stars, and the Deepak Chopra book 5 out of 5 stars as well. Gwendy's Magic Feather, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because, just like when I read Gwendy's Magic Button Box, I wanted more. And also, the ending felt rushed. It was slow, and not exactly slow, but it was a good pace for most of it, and then the ending happened all at once. And it felt like there were some things that just popped up that didn't really have an explanation, that deserved more of an explanation. And then the next book I read after that was Dear Ajaway, or A Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And then along with that I read We Should All Be Feminists by her as well. I loved both of these books. The messages are great, both for the feminism and for the cultural differences, because not only does it speak about the black female experience, but also her cultural experience, being, I believe she's African. I could be wrong on that. I need to look that up. And so those were the last 2 books that I actually finished in March. I feel pretty good about what I read. I did read a lot of short stories, and I listened to a lot of audiobooks as well. But I feel like it's broken my reading slump, which is good, because I went a long time without really reading much of anything. And I wanted to get back into it, and it's part of why I haven't been making booktube videos. I mean, there's more to it than that, because I've been off for like over 2 years, and I was definitely reading during that time, but I just didn't feel into YouTube. And I didn't feel like making the time for it in my life or anything like that. But I've been wanting to come back. So this is my comeback video, and I feel like now is a good time, because while I am privileged enough to still be working, I know that a lot of people aren't, and I want to try to provide something for people to do and watch and be entertained with while we're all going through this together. So that is everything that I read in March, and I will be back hopefully very soon with another video. Thank you so much for watching, and like I said, I should have another video in maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after that. I don't quite know what my filming schedule is going to be, but I'm back, and hopefully I can be entertaining for you guys. So thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you for watching my channel, and if nothing else, wash your hands. Alright, thank you again, and bye.